The stars had always been silent. But on that cold morning aboard the Starship Endeavour, Commander Jack wished they could scream. He stood at the observation window, staring at what remained of station. Twisted metal floated in the darkness. Broken pieces of what had once been a home for hundreds of families drifted past his ship like ghosts. The emergency lights of the station flickered weakly, as if the place itself was dying slowly, refusing to give up completely. Jack had served in the fleet for 20 years. He had seen accidents. He had seen disasters, but he had never seen anything like this. "Commander," said Lieutenant Maria Santos from behind him. Her voice was quiet, almost a whisper. "We have completed the scan. There are no survivors." Jack closed his eyes. 847 people had lived on station. Scientists, engineers, families, children, all of them were gone now. "What about the escape pods?" he asked, even though he already knew the answer. "All destroyed, sir. It looks like they were shot down as they tried to leave." Jack turned around. Maria's face was pale. She had served with him for 5 years, and he had never seen her look so shaken. Behind her, the rest of the bridge crew sat in stunned silence. Some of them had friends on that station. Some of them had family. "Do we know who did this?" Jack asked. "Yes, sir." Maria swallowed hard. "The weapon signatures match military vessels, 3 warships based on the energy readings." Jack had heard about them during the briefings when humanity first joined the Galactic Confederation 2 years ago. They were an old species, powerful and proud. They controlled a large part of the galaxy and had a reputation for taking what they wanted. But they were also members of the Confederation. They were supposed to follow the rules. "Get me Earth Command," Jack said, "and contact the Confederation Council. They need to know what happened here." The next few hours were a blur of communications and recordings. Jack sent teams to search the wreckage for any survivors, but they found only bodies. Men and women frozen in the vacuum of space. Children still clutching their parents. The medical staff on the Endeavour worked in silence, carefully bringing each person aboard for proper identification. It was during this grim work that they found the recording. One of the station's data cores had survived the attack. The technical team recovered it and brought it to Jack. He gathered his senior officers in the briefing room and played the footage on the main screen. The video showed the station's main plaza. People were running, screaming. Soldiers marched through the corridors, firing at anyone they saw. But then the footage changed. It showed a group of colonists gathered in the central hall. There were about 200 of them, mostly families with children. They had raised a white flag. Some of them were on their knees with their hands up. An officer walked toward them. He looked at the white flag for a long moment. Then he turned to his soldiers and gave an order. The soldiers opened fire. The screaming lasted only a few seconds. Then there was silence. Jack stopped the recording. No one in the room spoke. Lieutenant Santos had tears running down her face. Chief Engineer gripped the edge of the table so hard his knuckles turned white. Even the ship's doctor, a calm woman named Helen Wright, looked like she might be sick. "They surrendered," Jack said quietly. "They followed the rules. They raised a white flag and got on their knees, and those monsters killed them anyway." The message from Earth came an hour later. The Galactic Confederation had already been informed. The Empire had sent their own message, claiming that station was built in disputed territory. They called it an unfortunate incident. They offered to pay reparations to the families of the dead and return any salvageable property. They offered money for the lives of 847 people. Ambassador Kate was humanity's voice in the Confederation. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes, but everyone who knew her understood that she was made of steel. She had fought for human rights on Earth for decades before taking on the role of representing her species to the galaxy. When she received the news about Station, she was in her office on the embassy ship orbiting the Confederation's capital world. Her assistant, A young man named Tyler Brooks brought her the report. She read it in silence. Then she watched the recording from the station's data core. When it was over, she sat very still for a long time. "Ambassador," Tyler said carefully, "the Confederation Council is asking for your response to the offer. They want to schedule mediation talks." Kate looked up at him. Her eyes were dry, but there was something burning in them that Tyler had never seen before. "Get me a direct channel to the council chamber," she said. 20 minutes later, Kate stood before the Galactic Council. Hundreds of alien species watched her from their seats in the vast circular chamber. The ambassador, a tall creature with dark scales and cold eyes, sat in a place of honor near the front. He looked bored, as if this was just another minor issue to be handled and forgotten. The High Arbiter, an ancient being named who had mediated conflicts for thousands of years, spoke first. "Ambassador, the Empire has made a generous offer of reparations. We understand that humanity is new to our community and may not be familiar with how such matters are handled. We encourage you to accept this offer in the spirit of peace and cooperation." Kate looked around the chamber. She saw hundreds of eyes watching her, some with curiosity, some with pity, some with the same boredom as the ambassador. She thought about the recording, the white flag, the children. "With respect, High Arbiter," Kate said, and her voice was calm and clear. "Humanity did not come here to negotiate." A murmur ran through the chamber. The ambassador sat up. "The people of Station surrendered," Kate continued. "They followed the rules of war that every civilized species is supposed to honor. They raised a white flag and asked for mercy, and your empire murdered them anyway. You shot down their escape pods. You killed children in front of their parents." She paused and looked directly at the ambassador. "We don't negotiate with murderers." The chamber fell completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. The ambassador stared at her with wide eyes, his bored expression replaced by something like shock. Kate turned and walked out of the chamber. The galaxy had just heard something it had never heard before, and nothing would ever be the same. The words spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. Within hours, every species in the Confederation had heard what the human ambassador had said. "We don't negotiate with murderers." Such words had never been spoken in the council chamber, not in 10,000 years of galactic history. The ambassador demanded an apology. He called humanity's response primitive and emotional. He reminded the council that his empire controlled more than 300 star systems and had the largest fleet in known space. He said that refusing reparations was an insult to honor and would not be forgotten. But Ambassador Kate did not apologize. She did not take back her words. She simply returned to the human embassy ship and waited. The Galactic Council did not know what to do. For thousands of years, every conflict had been solved the same way. When a powerful species attacked a weaker one, the weaker species accepted payment and moved on. It was not fair, but it was how things worked. Fighting back only led to more death. Accepting reparations allowed life to continue. But humans, it seemed, did not care about how things worked. High Arbiter decided to visit Ambassador personally. He was the oldest and being in the Confederation. He had solved conflicts between species that had been at war for centuries. Surely, he could make these young humans understand reason. His shuttle docked with the human embassy ship on the third day after Kate's speech. Tyler Brooks met him at the airlock and led him through the narrow corridors to the ambassador's office. Had to bend his tall body to fit through the human-sized doorways. Everything about this ship was small. Everything about humanity was small. Kate stood when he entered. She offered him a seat designed for larger species and poured him a drink. She was polite and respectful, just as she had been in the council chamber, but could see the steel behind her eyes. "Ambassador," he began, settling his ancient body into the chair, "I have come to speak with you as a friend, not as a representative of the council." "I appreciate that," Kate said. You must understand the position you have put yourself in. The Empire is powerful beyond your imagination. They have thousands of warships. They have weapons that can destroy planets. Your species has been part of our community for only 2 years. You have fewer than 50 military vessels. Kate nodded slowly. I am aware of the numbers. Then you must see that refusing their offer is not just unwise. It is dangerous. The do not forget insults. If you push them too far, they will destroy your entire species. Is that what you want? Kate was quiet for a moment. Then she reached for a small device on her desk. May I show you something? She pressed a button and a holographic image appeared in the air between them. It was the recording from station. Watched in silence as the colonists gathered in the central hall. He saw the white flag. He saw the open fire. When it was over, Kate turned off the device. Those people trusted that surrender meant safety, she said. They believed that if they followed the rules, they would be protected. They were wrong. They killed them anyway. I am sorry for what happened, said carefully. Truly I am, but accepting reparations does not mean forgetting. It means being practical. Other species have lost colonies to the. They accepted payment and survived. Your species can do the same. Kate shook her head. No, we can't. Why not? Because if we accept money for the lives of our people, we are saying that those lives have a price. We are telling the galaxy that you can murder human children as long as you pay for it afterward. We cannot accept that. We will not accept that. Leaned forward. Ambassador, I have lived for 12,000 years. I have seen countless species rise and fall. The ones who survive are the ones who know when to bend. The ones who break are the ones who refuse to accept the way the universe works. Kate looked at him with steady eyes. Maybe the universe needs to work differently. Back on the Endeavor, Commander Jack had been joined by 3 other human warships. Captain Ben Torres of the Magellan was the first to arrive. He was a big man with a thick beard and a loud laugh, but he was not laughing now. His own brother had been stationed on station. Captain Dawson of the Intrepid came next. She was small and quiet, but her crew called her the Ice Queen because nothing ever seemed to shake her. When she saw the footage she watched it 3 times without saying a word. Then she asked Jack what the plan was. Captain Sam of the Frontier was the last to arrive. He was the youngest of the 4 commanders, only 32 years old, but he had already earned a reputation for creative thinking and bold action. He brought with him a detailed analysis of military tactics and weaknesses. The 4 of them gathered in the Endeavor's conference room and started planning. On Earth, the unified government held an emergency session. Every nation on the planet sent representatives. The debate lasted for 3 days. Some argued that humanity should accept the offer. They pointed out the same numbers that High Arbiter had mentioned. Thousands of enemy ships against 50 human vessels. It was suicide to refuse. But others stood up and spoke about the recording. They spoke about the white flag and the children. They spoke about what it would mean to accept blood money. In the end, the vote was unanimous. Humanity would not negotiate with murderers. The message was sent to the Galactic Council. It was simple and direct. The offer was rejected. Justice would be served. The Emperor, a massive creature named the Unyielding, laughed when he heard the news. He broadcast a message across all frequencies, mocking the infant species and their emotional response. These humans are children playing at war, he said. They do not understand the galaxy they have entered. We offered them mercy and they refused. Very well. They will learn the cost of their foolishness. But somewhere in the darkness of space, other species were watching. A peaceful people who had nearly been wiped out by the 300 years ago sent a quiet message to the human embassy. It contained no words, only a symbol that meant solidarity. The whose had been taken despite their acceptance of reparations began secretly sharing intelligence about fleet movements. And slowly, quietly, Something that had not happened in 10,000 years began to stir in the galaxy. Hope, the news traveled to every corner of the galaxy. In trading posts and space stations, in royal courts and hidden colonies, beings of every shape and size talked about the same thing. The humans had refused. They had looked at the most powerful empire in the galaxy and said no. Most species thought they were crazy. They had been conquering worlds since before humanity learned to make fire. They had crushed rebellions that lasted centuries. What could a young species with 50 ships possibly hope to accomplish? But some species remembered their own losses. They remembered the colonies they had lost, the people they had buried, the reparations they had accepted because they had no other choice. And they wondered if maybe, just maybe, things could be different. Admiral Danny Carter stood on the bridge of the carrier Independence, reading the latest reports from Earth. He was 60 years old, with gray hair cut short and a face weathered by decades of service. He had joined the fleet when humanity first reached the stars, back when their biggest ships were barely larger than old ocean vessels. Now he commanded the most powerful warship humanity had ever built. It still was not enough. The Independence was surrounded by the rest of humanity's fleet, 52 ships in total, including the Endeavour and its companion vessels. They had gathered in a remote system far from space, hidden behind a dying star that masked their energy signatures. Commander Jack came to see the Admiral that evening. They sat in Carter's private quarters, drinking coffee and looking at star charts. "They have mobilized their main fleet," Jack said. "Over 500 ships heading toward Earth." "I know," Carter replied. "We have about 3 weeks before they arrive." "What's the plan?" Carter was quiet for a moment. Then he turned to face Jack directly. "We're not going to wait for them to come to us." Jack blinked. "Sir, every species in this galaxy has done the same thing when they attacked. They defended. They tried to hold their ground. They waited for rescue that never came." Carter set down his coffee. "We're not going to do that. We're going to attack." "Attack?" Jack could not hide his shock. "Admiral, they outnumber us 10 to 1, more than that." "I know, but we have something they don't expect. We have the will to do what others considered impossible." The next morning, Ambassador Kate addressed the Galactic Council one more time. But this time, she was not there to reject an offer. She was there to make a declaration. "3 days ago, I told this council that humanity does not negotiate with murderers. Today, I am here to explain what that means." She stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by hundreds of alien species. The ambassador was no longer present. He had returned to his empire to join the fleet heading for Earth. From this day forward, humanity operates under a simple doctrine. Any species that commits mass murder against human civilians forfeits its right to negotiate. There will be no arbitration, no settlement, no reparations, only justice. A murmur ran through the chamber. "We did not ask for this fight," Kate continued. "We came to the stars hopping to find friends and partners. We joined your confederation because we believed in peace and cooperation. But we will not stand by while our people are slaughtered." She paused, looking around the room. "And we know we are not the only ones who have suffered. We know that other species have lost their worlds, their families, their hope. We know that many of you accepted reparations because you had no choice. We do not judge you for that." The chamber was completely silent now. "But we are telling you that there is another way. You do not have to accept injustice as the price of peace. Some crimes cannot be paid for. Some lines cannot be crossed. And those who cross them must face consequences." She walked toward the exit, then stopped and looked back. "This is the human doctrine. We invite anyone who shares our beliefs to stand with us." She left the chamber, and behind her, in the silence that followed, something extraordinary happened. The ambassador rose from his seat. His species was small and fragile, long ago broken by conquest. But his voice was steady as he spoke. "The stand with humanity. A gasp ran through the chamber. Then, slowly, another ambassador stood, and another, though the species that had been silent for centuries, afraid to speak against the now found their voices. Not everyone stood. Many species remained seated, too afraid or too practical to take such a risk. But for the first time in galactic history, they faced something more than a single victim. The intelligence reports started flowing in. They shared everything they knew about fleet formations. They provided star charts showing secret supply routes. Even species that did not officially declare support found ways to send information quietly. Admiral Carter studied the reports in his quarters late into the night. Captain Dawson sat across from him, running simulations on a small computer. "If these numbers are right," she said, "they keep their main shipyards lightly defended. They've never needed strong defenses at home because no one has ever attacked them there." "That's what I was thinking," Carter said. "They expect us to run or hide. They expect us to defend Earth and wait for them to come." Instead, Carter allowed himself a small smile. "Instead, we take the fight to them. We hit there before they reach ours." Captain Sam joined them, carrying more data from the Admiral. "I've been looking at their fleet movements. If we leave now and take the fastest route, we can reach Prime before their main fleet even knows we're gone." "It's risky," said. "If we fail, there's nothing left to defend Earth." "If we don't try," Carter replied, "there won't be an Earth to defend. They won't accept our surrender now. We insulted their honor. They'll make an example of us." He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the gathered fleet. 52 ships, the entire military might of humanity. "Send the order to all ships. We move out at dawn, set course for Prime." The fleet moved through the darkness of space like a blade cutting through water. Behind them, they left only hope. Ahead of them lay the heart of the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. And for the first time in 10,000 years, that empire did not see them coming. There was a massive planet covered in gleaming cities and military installations. For 10,000 years, no enemy had ever seen it up close. No attack had ever reached its orbit. They had conquered half the galaxy, and their home remained untouched, a symbol of their absolute power. Until now. Admiral Danny Carter stood on the bridge of the Independence as the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The planet filled the beautiful and terrible all at once. Around it floated hundreds of defense platforms and about 90 warships, the home guard left behind while the main fleet traveled toward Earth. "They're detecting us," reported the tactical officer. "Signals going out across all frequencies." "Let them call for help," Carter said calmly. "Their fleet is 3 weeks away. We'll be done here in 18 hours. The home guard reacted with shock and confusion. No species had ever attacked there. They had no plans for this situation. Their commanders argued among themselves about what to do, and those precious minutes of hesitation cost them dearly. "All ships," Carter ordered, "begin attack pattern Omega. Target their communications first. I don't want them coordinating anything." The human fleet split into groups and attacked from multiple directions at once. Commander Jack led a squadron against the orbital defense platforms, while Captain Ben Torres took his ships toward the enemy fleet. Captain Dawson and the intrepid Dove straight toward the largest concentration of enemy vessels. Her crew had trained for years for close-quarters combat, and they moved with deadly precision. Ships exploded around them as they weaved through the chaos. "Dawson, you're taking heavy fire on your port side," Jack called over the radio. "I see it," replied, her voice as calm as if she were discussing the weather. "Torres, can you cover my left?" "On my way." The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ships fought with a ferocity that bordered on madness. They did not fall back when damaged. They did not break formation when surrounded. They kept fighting until they physically could not continue. Captain Sam led a small group of ships through the enemy formation. drawing fire away from the main attack force. His ship, the Frontier, took hit after hit, but he refused to retreat. "Pull back," Carter ordered. "You're too damaged." "Negative, Admiral. If I pull back, they'll focus on the Endeavor. Needs cover." "That's an order, Captain." "Respectfully, sir, I'm going to have to disobey, just for a little while." Pushed his damaged ship forward, firing everything he had left. They turned their attention to him, exactly as he had planned. Behind them, Jack and the Endeavor slipped through and destroyed 2 more defense platforms. The battle lasted for 18 hours, just as Carter had predicted, but those hours felt like forever. The turning point came when Captain Dawson spotted a transport ship trying to flee. Her sensors showed that it carried civilian refugees from the planet below, but also that 3 disabled human vessels were in its path. If the transport continued, it would crash right into them. Had a choice. She could let the transport go and save her weapons for the enemy warships still fighting, or she could try to stop it, but that would mean putting herself directly in front of a dreadnought that was already targeting her. She did not hesitate. "All power to forward shields," she ordered, ramming speed. The Intrepid surged forward. The dreadnought fired and felt her ship shudder under the impact. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered, but she kept going. She reached the transport and fired a precise shot that disabled its engines without destroying it. The transport slowed and stopped, safely away from the disabled human vessels. Then the dreadnought fired again. The Intrepid was already too damaged to survive another hit. Knew this. Her crew knew this. But instead of trying to run, she turned her dying ship toward the dreadnought. "All hands, this is the captain. It has been an honor serving with you." She activated the self-destruct and aimed for the dreadnought's engine section. The collision was spectacular. Both ships disappeared in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. His final transmission was calm and clear. "Get those people home." The human fleet paused for just a moment, honoring her sacrifice. Then they fought even harder. By the end of the battle, humanity had lost 31 ships. They had lost 247, including their flagship. The orbital defenses were destroyed. The planet lay exposed and unprotected. Emperor the Unyielding watched from his palace as human ships filled the sky above his world. For the first time in his long reign, he felt something he had never experienced before. Fear. He opened a communication channel and broadcast to the human fleet. His voice, usually so arrogant and powerful, now carried a note of desperation. "Humans, I am prepared to negotiate. I will offer triple the original reparations for station. I will offer territory, trade agreements, anything you want. Name your price and it will be paid." Admiral Carter listened to the message on the bridge of the Independence. Around him, his crew waited in silence. They were exhausted, wounded, grieving for their lost friends, but they were still standing. Carter opened a channel to respond. His voice was broadcast across every frequency, heard by every ship in the system, recorded and sent across the galaxy. "Emperor, 3 weeks ago you laughed at us. You called us children. You said we would learn the cost of our foolishness. Well, here we are." He paused, letting the words sink in. "You killed our people after they surrendered. You murdered children in front of their parents. You thought you could pay for their lives with money. We told you then, and we are telling you now, we don't negotiate with murderers." "Then what do you want?" demanded. "Justice. You will surrender yourself to human authorities to stand trial for the massacre at Station. Not for conquest, not for territory, for the specific crime of ordering the deaths of innocent people who had already surrendered." "And if I refuse?" Carter looked at his crew. He looked at the planet below. He thought about Dawson and the 31 ships that would never fly again. "Then we will keep fighting until there is nothing left of your empire but ashes. And we will build a monument on those ashes to remind the galaxy what happens when you kill our people." The silence that followed lasted a long time. Then, slowly, Emperor spoke again. "I accept your terms." Human soldiers landed on Prime 2 hours later. Emperor the Unyielding was taken into custody without resistance. He would be transported to Earth to face a human court of law. As the sun set on the Admiral Carter allowed himself to finally sit down. His body ached. His heart was heavy with the weight of everyone they had lost. But they had done it. They had done the impossible. And the galaxy would never forget. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Prime. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted. The Empire still existed, but it was no longer the terror it had once been. Without Emperor to lead them, the ruling council had agreed to major reforms. They returned territories they had taken by force. They paid true reparations to species they had wronged. They signed treaties promising to never again attack civilians who had surrendered. It was not perfect. Some still held onto their old ways, their old hatred. But the Empire as a whole had learned a hard lesson. There were some species you did not push too far. Ambassador Kate stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber. But this time, she was not alone. Behind her sat delegations from a dozen species that had joined humanity in the fight against aggression. And many others who had found their courage when humanity showed them it was possible to stand up. The chamber was packed. Every seat was filled. Species that had been silent for centuries had come to hear what would be said today. High Arbiter called the session to order. He looked older somehow, as if the events of the past year had added centuries to his already ancient life. But there was something else in his eyes too, something that looked almost like respect. "Ambassador," he said, "the floor is yours." Kate walked to the center of the chamber. She wore simple clothes, nothing fancy or impressive. She did not need impressive clothes. Her actions had spoken louder than any dress ever could. "1 year ago," she began, "I stood in this chamber and said 4 words that shocked the galaxy. We don't negotiate with murderers. Many of you thought we were foolish. Many of you thought we would be destroyed. I understand why you thought that. History seemed to be on your side." She paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. "But we believed that some things are more important than survival. We believed that accepting blood money for the lives of our children would poison our souls. We believed that justice was worth fighting for, even if we had to fight alone." The ambassador nodded slowly. Others did the same. "We did not fight alone, of course. When we stood up, others stood with us. Species that had been beaten down for centuries found their voices again. And together, we did what everyone said was impossible." Kate took a deep breath before continuing. "But we did not come here to brag about our victory. We came here because we believe the galaxy can be better than it has been. We believe that the old ways, the ways of accepting injustice because it was practical, were wrong. And we believe it is time for a change." She activated a holographic display, showing a document that had been carefully prepared over the past several months. "This is a proposal for a new agreement among all Confederation members. It includes provisions that humanity insisted upon, but it also includes ideas from our allies and even from species who did not join our fight." The document appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Delegates began reading, their expressions changing from curiosity to surprise to something that looked like hope. "The core of this agreement is simple," Kate explained. "There are certain crimes for which no reparation will ever be accepted: genocide, the murder of civilians who have surrendered, the deliberate targeting of children. For these crimes there is only justice. No payment, no negotiation, only accountability." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates looked uncomfortable. Others nodded in agreement. "We are not trying to create a perfect galaxy. We know that conflicts will happen. We know that species will disagree and sometimes fight. But we believe there must be limits, lines that cannot be crossed. and we believe that if we all agree to these limits, the galaxy will be a safer place for everyone. High Arbiter spoke up. This is a significant change to our traditions. Many species may resist. Yes, Kate agreed. Change is always difficult, but I would ask those who resist to consider their own history. How many of them have lost people to violence? How many of them have been forced to accept payment for lives that could never be replaced? How many of them have lived in fear, knowing that the powerful could do whatever they wanted without consequence? She looked directly at several delegations who had suffered under rule. We are offering something that has never existed before. A galaxy where the weak are protected, where surrender means safety, where children can grow up without fearing that they will be murdered while their parents watch. The chamber was silent. That is the galaxy we want to build, and we are inviting everyone to help us build it. The vote took place 3 days later. It was not unanimous. Some species still clung to the old ways, afraid of what change might bring, but the majority voted in favor of the new agreement. The galaxy had a new set of rules, and everyone would be held to them. Commander Jack, now promoted to captain, did not attend the celebration that followed. He had something else to do. He stood at the memorial that had been built on a small moon near where Station once floated. The structure was simple, just a wall of black stone with names carved into it. 847 names. Men, women, and children who had died because they believed surrender would save them. Jack read the names slowly. He knew many of them personally. Scientists he had worked with, engineers who had helped repair his ship, families he had shared meals with on his visits to the station. Near the bottom of the list, 3 names caught his eye. Lisa Grant, age 7. She had wanted to be an astronaut when she grew up. Michael Cooper, age 9. He had loved reading books about Earth's oceans, a place he had never seen. Emma, age 12. Ambassador Kate's niece, who had been visiting the station with her school class when the attack came. Jack saluted. Behind him, he heard footsteps. Kate walked up to stand beside him. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was steady. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I come every month," Jack replied. "They deserve to be remembered." "Yes, they do." They stood in silence for a long time, looking at the names. The stars shone overhead, billions of points of light scattered across the darkness. Somewhere out there, other species were looking at those same stars and thinking about the future. "Do you think we did the right thing?" Jack asked finally. Kate thought about the question. She thought about the war, the lives lost, the pain that would never fully heal. She thought about Dawson and the 31 ships that had sacrificed everything. "I think we did the only thing we could do," she said. "I think we showed the galaxy that there are some things worth fighting for, and I think we gave hope to species that had forgotten what hope felt like." Jack nodded slowly. "I hope you're right." "So do I." They stood together as the stars wheeled overhead. Behind them, the names of the fallen were carved in stone, never to be forgotten. Ahead of them, a galaxy was slowly learning a new way to live. Humans don't negotiate with murderers. It had started as a simple statement of principle. It had become a battle cry. And now, perhaps, it was becoming the foundation of something new. Something better. The galaxy had been shocked, alerted to the fact that there was a species that would not bend, would not break, would not accept injustice no matter the cost. And slowly, quietly, other species were beginning to believe that maybe they didn't have to accept it either. That was humanity's greatest gift to the stars, not their weapons, not their ships, not their victory in battle. Their hope.